Thank you so much, Kat. Hello, and thank you all for attending today. I'm Nicole Qorvis, Senior Manager of Programs at Cancer and Careers, and I'll be your host for today's 60-minute webinar. Now, before we begin, just a few housekeeping items related to accreditation, and for those of you who don't require this info, please bear with us. I promise I'll be as fast as possible. Today's webinar is accredited for CEUs by the California Board of Registered Nursing, New York State Education Department State Board for Social Work, the National Association of Social Workers, and the Society for Human Resource Management. The following steps apply to those requesting CEs and PDCs. First, you must call in individually. Participants who listen in on someone else's line will not receive credit. Second, you must complete and submit the evaluation and post-test, as well as receive a passing grade on the post-test. Following today's session, you'll receive an email with all of this information. The follow-up email will be sent by 5 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, and certificates will be emailed within 4 to 6 weeks. Also, please note that the planners and presenters for this program have not disclosed any pertinent financial relationships or conflicts of interest, and that no commercial support was provided for this program. Thanks in part to a generous grant from Genentech, Cancer and Careers has created the Balancing Work and Cancer webinar series to provide patients, survivors, and healthcare providers with concise, targeted information to help you understand a variety of issues that surround balancing work and cancer. So social media has become a fixture in most of our lives, so it's more important than ever to figure out how to make it work for you. There are things to consider around disclosure in the online universe, so when using social media, we must use it intelligently and as a tool to tell the right story in order to maximize its value. Our goal is always to help you be the savviest candidate or employee that you can be. This session helps us think about what building up a personal brand looks like in practice. We're fortunate to have Archie Smart take us through this topic today. Archie is an Executive Vice President at Qorvis MSLGROUP, responsible for leading digital and interactive services for North America. He has more than 20 years of experience working this space with a variety of clients and truly brings an expert lens to this topic. Archie, I'll hand it over to you to get started.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Nicole, for the excellent, lovely introduction, and really thank you to all that we will spend the next hour or so. It looks like we've got about 50 or so users online, so that's really terrific, and I'm looking forward to sharing the presentation today. Let's just dive right in. As Nicole said, I'm Archie Smart. I am an EVP at MSLGROUP. That is, and we are a PR and influencer agency, and we're part of a much larger holding company, part of a company called Publicis Group, which is one of the largest communications firms in the world. And I lead a practice group at the firm. Sorry, I'm seeing the screen jump around a little bit. I hope that everyone is looking at the same thing. Let's just dive right in. I wanted to start off with kind of talking about the state of the internet. Every year we are looking for research into how many people are really using the internet, where they're using it, what kind of people. For this, I wanted to just pull out some statistics that are really pretty amazing. We're just looking at United States numbers right now. And as it stands in January of 2018, 286.9 million people are active internet users. That represents 88% of the population of the United States. And 75% of them are using social media on a mobile device. It's really pretty amazing. It took the telephone about 50 years to get into 50% of the households in America. It's taken the internet about 12 years to do the same thing. The meteoric growth that we've seen in this new source of information is really incredible. And the same is true of social media use. 71% of American internet users are active social media users, actively engaging, actively looking, spending time on one social media site or another. And of those, more than half, 61%, are using a social media network on their mobile phone. Really pretty incredible statistics when you think about the fact that Facebook is a 10 or 12-year-old company, and that they have really helped to create this whole new source of information. When we think about what that means, when I think about what that means, I realize that everybody who is participating in social media, who is actively engaged on the internet, has a digital brand. We like things on Facebook, we share things, we watch YouTube videos, we leave comments on blogs and web pages and so on, and all of those little digital breadcrumbs make up our digital brand. That brand, all of those digital breadcrumbs, leave a reputation trail behind us. And what that online reputation says about us can really make a tremendous difference in the way that we're perceived by our peers, by employers, by our community. Today, social media is a norm, and not having a social media brand, not having an online reputation, can be a disadvantage when we are thinking about employment, when we're thinking about community, whether online or offline. It's an amazing change, but it is the reality of where we are today. I thought it might make sense to make this a little bit more real. If you Google me, you will find my work profile. You will find, I have this, see if that plays. No, I think that won't play. You will find my LinkedIn. You'll find my Twitter. I won an award. I'm on Facebook, and you'll probably find some recent photos of me. And if you looked harder, you got beyond the first page of Google, you might learn that I'm interested in photography. You might find that I ride motorcycles. You might find that I have a blog because my son had a very serious health issue. You might find that I've worked in politics. And you might find that I serve on the board of a foundation. And that's, again, if you were really looking hard to find information about me, which I don't know why you would. But what you won't find is the 2-year hole in my career because of my son's health, because of other things happening in my life. I didn't have a job for a couple of years. And as I was thinking about bringing my discipline, my practice to my own life, I developed some ideas. I developed some strategies that I hope to be able to share some of with you today that I think might be relevant and might connect. When I sat down and thought about re-entering, coming back when I was trying to fill this hole in my career, I thought about what do employers really look for in talent. I thought a lot about it. I wrote a lot about it. I read a lot about it. And I came down to these 11 characteristics or traits or criteria. And it's reliability. Employers like reliability, self-motivation, passion, dedication, productivity, collaboration, organization, attention to detail, being goal-oriented, optimism, and openness to change. So with those ideas in my head, I thought, what other areas of my life can I utilize? In other words, in the absence of a job, if I wanted to build digital breadcrumbs, if I wanted to improve my online reputation, my digital brand, how could I use those ideas, those traits to communicate, to demonstrate to employers, to my family, friends, community, that I had possessed these traits and was a good candidate, would make a great employee, would make a good person to have on a team. And I think what we're talking about here today is, at least in part, that some of you are on a cancer journey today, and that some of those same traits, some of those same things may apply to your cancer journey. That to be on a cancer journey, whether it's you or your family or a friend or someone that you are supporting, you need to be reliable. You need a tremendous amount of self-motivation and passion and dedication and collaboration. And every single one of these traits that I had identified as being important to or being appealing to advertisers would really probably also applicable to people who are on. What the next step, as I was thinking about these traits, these components, and how I could show that I possessed them in a way that was not about my job, because I didn't have one, was to think about applying those traits and building social media content around things that I could do, things that I was able to do. And those were ideas like volunteering or mentoring or sharing my expertise or talking about creating new social media content, new digital content around a new skill. By doing that, what I was able to do was to create social media content that was, I showed up at the same place to volunteer once a month, every month, and I was sure to get my picture taken and get it posted on their Facebook. And I was sure to talk about how I was trying to do something to mentor other people. And I was sure to write blog posts and about what I was doing and how I was the ideal candidate or a good candidate for a position. So I thought I'd take you through some real life examples of what something like that can look like and what the value of doing that kind of work in social media can bring. So how can we fill the gap? I mentioned volunteering, and I recognize that for many people on the call, that time and energy and effort levels and abilities are going to vary wildly. So the point here, or the key takeaway here, is that this is the way to think about it. I'm not saying that everyone needs to show up and volunteer 5 days a week, 90 hours a week, but to come up with a way to get involved with social media, to promote the things about you, your stick-to-itiveness, your openness to change, your trustworthiness, your every one of those 11 criteria in the form of photos, videos, blog posts. So one idea is identify a local nonprofit where you can support the organization in achieving its mission. And that what you're seeking to do, what you're seeking to communicate is that you are reliable, that you're showing up there, that you are really dedicated to give your time to an organization that probably really desperately could use the help. So Here's an example, a real-life example of something like that. This is from a nonprofit, or this is from an election organization where these folks are going out and volunteering their time to register people to vote. And what they've done is they've gotten their picture taken in front of the house and doing what they're passionate about, getting people signed up, canvassing a neighborhood. And you can see that they've created content, that they've taken a picture, they've written a description of what it is that they're doing, and they're using social media tags like grassroots and community and Our Revolution to get more visibility, make sure that this kind of social media content is going to be seen and, more importantly, found by employers, talent recruitment folks, anybody in their anyone in the community who is really looking to learn more about you, or in my case, learn more about me as I was going through this 2-year hole in my career. This is a great way. And Instagram, this is a post from Instagram, which is a wonderful photo sharing service. It's got a very easy to use app that is free to download and free to use. Really, anyone with a smartphone, anyone with a smart mobile phone, if it's an iPhone or an Android phone or a Windows, there's Instagram on all of these, on all of those devices, and it's free, easy to use, and a great way to share your passion, your expertise. Next idea that I had to share, create digital social content was to mentor. The people on this call, the people who you all have had tremendous life experiences. You are all experts on something. Let's start creating content. Let's start creating a blog. Let's start creating a photo series or a video series that enables people to find you and enables you to demonstrate your expertise to a new audience. It shows it shows your ability to be collaborative. You're teaching someone. It shows your optimism, that you're looking forward to the future. It shows your dedication, that you've made a commitment to another person to teach them what you know. And it shows tremendous productivity, that you are, despite your wherever you are in your life's journey, you are continuing to push and want to be productive and want to share. Here's an example of that. Medium is another great, very popular website that is perfect for creating articles, simple, easy to write articles. I found this article from Tim Denning, and he wrote about how to be a mentor to others. This is probably a 500, I think, or so word article. It takes about 6 minutes to read. He put some effort into getting the words down on the page, but the point is, this article has been seen many thousands of times, and you'll note that Tim's name is on the page, and it is prominently on the page. That means that when people are searching for Tim, they're going to find this piece of content, they're going to find this post on this website, Medium, that illustrates his commitment to mentorship, his commitment to productivity, his commitment. Even though he doesn't have a job, he's not really talking about his career. He's not talking about what his work is. He's just sharing something out with the world because he knows that there's real value in that being found, that being seen by other people, so that when he is looking for his next career opportunity, so that when he is looking for his next step in his life's journey, that a recruiter, a conference speaker or someone who would like him to speak at a conference can find him and learn more about him and start to get engaged with what he has to say. So it really is going to opens up whole new doors. The last piece of the puzzle is another idea for how you can fill the gap in your own career is thought leadership. I'm a living example. I'm currently guest lecturing on a webcast that now has 61 people online. I'm trying to share what I know about my area of expertise, and I write blogs, and sometimes I post op-eds or articles. I submit letters to the editor, and I try and speak at local and community events. And again, it's back to communicating those traits, communicating what is it that I believe in, what is it that I'm passionate about, and how I can show, despite that I don't have a job, or despite that I didn't have a job, that I'm valuable, that I'm desirable as a candidate, and that I can add real value to a new organization. So let's talk about this one. This is really one of my favorite examples. This person set up a blog, a whole blog on a website called WordPress, which again is free, easy to use, and is great for writing and sharing content. This blog is called 50 Coffees, and their goal was to have coffee, sit down with 50 random strangers in a coffee shop and engage in a discussion, learn something new about the world, but then write a blog post about what they talked about, who they are, how they are similar, how they are different. And this blog is just so much fun because the person came up with this idea and executed it and did it, sat down with 50 people to build the blog. He wrote articles. He talked about his thoughts, musings, and took pictures and videos and made sure that all of those things are associated with their name, their real life name, so that when you search for this person online, you're going to find this blog. You're going to think, wow, that is a great idea. That is a smart, creative, optimistic, and dedicated person who's got real passion about coffee. Again, back to those core traits. Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Last one is develop a new skill. Take an art class. Again, that's something that is varying levels of energy, varying levels of time are required, but learn something new and then share that content online. Tell your Facebook friends about it. Find a way to get new digital content created that you've made that communicates these core traits. Quick example there. Oh, that's my photo. That's some photography of mine. I can't comment on the quality of it, but I have a page on Flickr, and there's pictures of my family, there's pictures of my daughter, there's pictures of my wife, kids, and some adventures that I've been on. But all of that leads people who search for me to think he is a person that is really motivated, passionate, and this was a skill that I didn't really know a lot about at one point in my life. And through creating content, through meeting a community online who are also interested in photography, I've been able to learn from them and share expertise that I've come by in the form of pictures, in the form of videos. It's been a really wonderful adventure for me. So when we think about the way that it all comes together is, I had said at the beginning that everyone has an online reputation. Everyone has a digital brand. what we find is that the absence of a digital brand, an absence of an online persona, can be confusing. It can be concerning. That to recruiters, to people who may be searching for your name, may want to learn more about you for whatever reason. I think that it's important to point out that large organizations, and increasingly there is legislation that seeks to limit what recruiters or what employment agencies can search and find about you online. I think the real world tells me, the real world tells us that despite the regulation that sometimes those rules are adhered to by recruiters and sometimes they're not, but that where we can fill those gaps, fill those holes, where if we were once very actively engaging on Facebook and then we suddenly go dark, that may lead an employment agency or a recruiter to think differently or to not want to engage with you. But we can fill that hole through photographs, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through Medium and blogs and vlogs and Instagram and all of the other great social media digital channels that we have access to that are free. Largely free. So, to me, it boils down, in my instance, it boiled down to this. All these ideas have a couple of things in common. That we all have goals. We all have things that we would like to achieve. I know that I do, and I'm very confident that every one of you do as well. Keep dreaming. Use social and digital. Use the opportunity of your online reputation to help you achieve those goals, to share what you know, and share it with the world. There is a temptation to try and be somebody else, have a different persona online. I would encourage you against that. Being genuine on the internet, being genuine in your social media, being genuine among your peer group. For me, I think for the work that I do professionally and what I counsel our clients to do is always be genuine, always be yourself. Never try to compromise or never compromise on that. A couple of best practices. Wherever possible, when you sign up for WordPress or when you sign up for Instagram or Facebook, use your real name. Use the name that you're going to use on your resume. Use the name that you're known by, that people can find you by. Everyone has a different place, a different level of comfort with what they're willing to share online. That's up to you. Share, but don't go outside of your comfort zone. Third, it's important to recognize that this is not about shouting from the mountaintops that I'm terrific. It's back to that notion of being genuine. It's back to that notion of there are things that I can share with the world that are going to provide value to my community, are going to provide value to the people who are looking for more information about me, whomever they are. There are tremendous online communities. There is an online community for everything. As I mentioned, I like motorcycles a lot. I actively participate in motorcycle communities where I've met great like-minded people who are truly experts and have taken the time to engage with me about a topic that we're both passionate about. I value that tremendously, and I try and repay that by engaging in communities where I know a lot and I can share that. And again, got my real name on it. It's findable when you search for me online. It's connected to my online reputation, my online digital brand. It would be silly, next point, it would be silly to ignore or not acknowledge that there is certainly tremendous negativity online. You don't always need to be afraid of it. There are places to engage where there can be real dialogue, where there can be great new opportunities to engage with an opinion that is different than your own, or challenges an opinion that you hold. Don't ignore negative comments. Engage with them. Approach them with an open mind, and think about how what you write in a reply to a comment, how what you write is in a comment will reflect on your online reputation, and how you can change or how you can present your point in a way that is thoughtful, engaging, and contributes positively to your reputation. Next point, post frequency, how often you engage on social media, how often you're taking a picture and posting it on Facebook or on Instagram. Depends. It depends on the platform. There are some platforms that people use. For instance, Snapchat is a very popular platform among very young people, 18 to 24, and they post on it 10 times a day. For me, that is way too much. I don't have that kind of time and that kind of energy. On LinkedIn, on Instagram, I post maybe once every 2 weeks when I have something to say, when I have something that's really, I think, going to be useful. But that post frequency depends on you, your level of energy, what you think that you can contribute, and to some degree on the platform that you're using. And the last point, I'm saying it twice, be authentic. Don't try to be somebody else online. Be yourself. You have tremendous life experience. You have tremendous expertise. You have things in your head through your life experience that would be tremendously valuable, is tremendously valuable to someone else. You can share that and improve your online reputation, fill that hole, fill that gap in your reputation. With that, I think we've got some administrative stuff, and then I would love to take some questions if we have time for that.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, thank you so much, Archie. This was really great. You really brought to life so many important concepts and techniques that I think we can all take back and use in our daily lives. I really hope that this presentation gave you all on the phone some good things to think about as you're building your brand and using social media. I do want to point out that we also run a number of free events, both in person and online throughout the year. Here are just a few of our upcoming Balancing Work and Cancer webinars. We have a new session coming up on occupational therapy and vocational rehab next month. And also just going off of today's webinar, you might want to check out disclosure, privacy, and online brand to sort of build upon some of what we talked about today and thinking about the privacy aspects of social media and online presence. We also have our in-person events, and this includes our national conference. This is taking place in New York City on June 22nd. We also have our West Coast conference. Will be taking place on October 13th in Los Angeles. And I just want to make a quick note that there are travel scholarships available for the West Coast conference. So if you're interested, I definitely encourage you to apply. For more information on our events, check out cancerandcareers.org. And now it's time to open up the call for questions. So our operator, Kat, will now explain how Q&A works. Kat?
Certainly, thank you. The floor is now open for questions. If you do have a question, you may press *1 on your telephone keypad at this time. If your question has been answered, you can remove yourself from the queue by pressing 1. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it's star one. And our first question comes from Christian. Go ahead, Christian.
Hi there. Thanks. This was really great information, Archie. I really appreciate it. So again, my name is Christian. I'm actually a Cancer and Careers Community Ambassador, so how about that? Question for you. I'm actively looking for a job, and I'm struggling on whether to add anything that will convey that I went through a cancer diagnosis last year to my resume or cover letters. And that's really because ever since entering remission, I've been a big cancer patient advocate, becoming a moderator for several blood cancer-specific subreddits on Reddit, starting my own website, volunteering for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, etc. But, this touches on what you were talking about, which is displaying that drive and passion, those traits and skills and aspects that, employers are looking for. But I think if a recruiter looks at that, or someone that's interviewing me, they can kind of connect the dots of, it's kind of strange that this person started doing that so suddenly. I've had zero luck with job opportunities. I've applied for over 25 of them that I think I'm qualified for. So is this something where I want to continue talking about this, at least on the onset, with a resume and cover letter, or should I remove that in those communications and instead look to convey that during an interview after I've been vetted initially? What do you think?
I think that this is something that came up last year, and I think that the issue of disclosure is a hugely personal one. And I don't know that I'm the best person to answer that, because I think that it really is going to be tremendously different for every person. What I can say is that you certainly could experiment with a job cover sheet and a resume that does highlight your experience and your journey, and one that doesn't, and see if there is any difference there. We live in the real world. My personal inclination is never to think that you're being disqualified for the journey that you're on, but it's a real world out there, and it's a tough decision. And I keep coming back to the idea that for the conversations that we had last year at the national conference were really there was an entire event, an entire seminar on it, actually, it seems to me, about whether or not to disclose. I'm sure that Nicole might be able to direct you to it if you're not familiar with it, and you can learn from somebody who's much smarter than I. I'm sorry, that's not a great answer, but yeah.
I'm happy to jump in. This is Nicole. Hi, Christian. Thank you for calling in. It's a personal decision to disclose. You're not under no obligation to do so. It does sound like it is a really big part of your life and something that you do want to share and express. We do tend to encourage people to just get a little bit further in an interviewing process as you're applying for jobs. And the reason for that being is you just don't know how someone's going to react to the news. And if they're just reading it on paper, it doesn't give you the opportunity to really explain yourself or to answer any questions for them. And so you never know what kind of history and experience they may have with cancer or illnesses. And so it might be a little challenging for them to maybe put the pieces together of why this would be a good thing for you to share with them. So it's not that you shouldn't necessarily disclose, but I just would encourage you to let them know who you are as a person and as a professional before maybe sharing some of that more personal information. You want to think of a resume and cover letter as something that expresses why you're good for a certain position, right? And, sometimes it's important to realize that the cancer aspect may not play a part in that right away. You want them to see you for your skill sets first and foremost, which would make you qualified for a position. So I would, I think if it's really important for you to disclose right away, I don't know that a resume and cover letter is exactly where you should be doing it first. I think, an in-person situation can be a little bit more personal and give them the opportunity to see you as a whole person as opposed to just maybe focusing in on that one aspect.
Okay. Well, thank you, Archie, and thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I would encourage you to check out the disclosure webinar in September because it definitely touches on this as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And our next question comes from Lila. Go ahead, Lila.
How do I get a copy of the 11 traits you mentioned and the whole talk, your whole talk, and also last month's Cancer and Connections webinar? And how do you spell your name? The second question is, how do I remove Facebook posts and an alternative website that they had me make? No matter how many times I've written them to remove those things, they're stubborn. They're very stubborn, and I can't seem to remove them from Facebook. What do I do?
Okay. I think I will let Nicole answer the question about getting a copy of the traits. I believe that we are recording this webinar, so it will be up and available online.
That's correct.
I don't know what this. Great. Okay. So that's the first. That was the first part. The second part of your question was about using or limiting the use of Facebook.
How do I remove? Like they had me do an alternative website one time when they wouldn't show me my actual Facebook website, so I made an alternative website. And I like to delete that, and I would like to screen my posts better, so I'd like to be able to remove posts. And my experience with Facebook is that they're very stubborn about removing what I ask them to remove, no matter how many times I've written them. What do I do?
Yeah, if it's a post or something that you shared, there is generally a pretty good way to delete a post. And I think I'm just looking at my own. I'm opening up my own Facebook here. Let me just see. I think on my computer, I'm using my desktop or my laptop computer now. In the upper right-hand corner, there's 3 little dots next to the last post, and I see a list of options, and one of those options is delete. So I would start there, and I think that Facebook has got some pretty okay help. I would advise this might be a great opportunity for you to find a young person that is in your community who may be a little bit more familiar and can actually just walk you through the process. I wonder if perhaps you have a younger person in your life that you might be able to lean on for that. I know that increasingly with the newer social media sites, I find myself doing that with my 11-year-old son.
Even past posts, it'll let you remove, and if I can't afford a younger person for that, how do I remove a alternative website that Facebook has me create, and how do I remove any past posts, which I don't know if I need to or not, but I'd like to look at my past posts for what you said. How do I remove past posts and an alternative website Facebook had me make?
Yeah, I think the Facebook is pretty good about closing your account. I would go and take a, let's see, I think they have a link on their website. I'm just going to do a quick search. Facebook close account. Deactivate. Yes, they have a thing on their website for how to deactivate and delete Facebook accounts, or how do I permanently delete my account. That's where I would start.
And Layla, I'll just jump in and just say that sometimes local libraries and community centers can provide some assistance with technology and different platforms, and I know that they provide a lot of those free services, so you might want to check in with a library or community center near you.
That's a terrific suggestion, Nicole. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Our next question comes from Amy. Amy, go ahead.
Oh, yes. I'm wondering if any of you can address the issue of, trying to deal with this gap retroactively. In other words, if you're not still in treatment and you're past it, looking for jobs and trying to deal with that kind of gap, how to address that?
After the fact. Yeah,
Right.
I think I understood, and that the way that Google works, the way that Facebook works, is that all these sites that let you search and learn work is that they're going to report on the newest information that they can find about you. So creating new content and new kinds of content, even if it's after the fact, will help to fill in that online reputation, make it easier to find what you want to be found about you by creating new content that pushes either old content or less flattering content about you off of the first page of Google. I think I read a statistic that 87% of people, when they're searching on Google, don't make it past the first page. So Google has gotten so good at knowing what it is that we're wanting to learn, what we're wanting to find, that that most people find what they're looking for on the first page. So if you're creating new content with your name on it that takes up the first page, so new pictures, new links, new blog posts, that's where you can fill in that gap retroactively.
I don't think I understand. I understand about creating content, and what's most recent is going to go to the top of the search, and they won't look beyond much else. But how to use that to address like a glaring gap in a resume that they're looking at?
I see. Oh, it's harder to do in an actual resume, and I think that probably gets a little bit closer to the some of the other experts and other topics in webinars. I think what we're trying to focus on today is your online reputation, not so much your resume proper. Is that fair, Nicole?
Yeah, and just so you know, we do have a free resume review service where you can have your resume reviewed by a volunteer career coach. And a lot of what she has assisted people with in the past is addressing resume gaps and how to kind of put a spin on that so it's not as glaring as you had mentioned it feels. So you can submit your resume through our website if you're interested in utilizing that service.
Okay, and they also give advice on what to do with your social media content, like today's topic?
Well, this will just be for the resume, but yeah, I mean, I think in conjunction with today's information, you can start to figure out how to sort of piece that together so it's portraying you as you'd like to be portrayed and covering up that gap a little bit more. We do have a webinar that we hosted last month on building a LinkedIn profile, so that can help with your online presence as well.
Yes, I attended. Yep, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
And I'll just echo that. I think for for many people, for the business world, having a great and complete LinkedIn profile is a huge asset.
Absolutely. Kat, is there anyone else on the phone?
Yes, we have one more question from Rachel. Go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, this is Rachel. My question is concerning, I have worked years trying to keep my name off of the website for privacy and security reasons. So how can I make myself known to prospective employers but still do it safely?
That's a great question. And what I would say is that comes back to the principles of what you share, on what platforms you share it and how often you share. That is a level of personal comfort. There are going to be people who are comfortable sharing their home address and their home phone number and their birthday and every other little detail about them. I would not advocate for that under any circumstances. But I do think that there's a way, and I will say that LinkedIn is really a great way to start because it does provide a good amount of privacy while sharing your professional capabilities, your professional working and volunteering history with in a way that does protect and does enable you to share what you want to share and to not share anything that you do not want to share. So I would consider starting with LinkedIn as a good starting point.
Okay.
I would agree with that. And you can really put out there what you wish for employers to be seeing as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. It looks like we have it.
No, I just wanted to say that was our last question.
Okay, it looks like we have a question in the chat box. This question is from Anne. Anne asks, how important is it to start first with a strategy for social media, and what do you suggest?
I think understanding what your goals are, what you're looking to communicate is important. What you're looking to demonstrate, really, and communicate is important at the outset. Understanding that it may change over time, but having a short-term or initial set of goals about how you want to present yourself online, how you want to start into this new world is important. Because if you can't define where you're headed, you'll never know if you've gotten there. And so starting with a goal, starting with a strategy, starting with an idea like I'm going to create a blog that I'm going to create a blog website that is about my expertise in needlepoint or motorcycle maintenance or my passion for hot dogs. Any topic that you're passionate about, and to start with a distinct goal and come up with a simple, easily achievable strategy for how to get yourself there is really important. The great news is that because there are so many social media channels, there are so many ways to share that your goal can be almost anything that you want it to be. But starting with something that is measurable and is achievable and isn't kind of a too pie in the sky is a great way to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. So unless there's anyone else on the phone, Kat?
No questions on the phone.
No. Okay. Well, it looks like we're almost at the top of the hour, so I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you again for joining us. We hope you found this webinar valuable and really appreciate any feedback you're willing to give us. So we'll be emailing an online evaluation tomorrow before 5 p.m. We really do appreciate your time filling this out so that we're able to develop this program to best meet all of your needs. It's not only very helpful in shaping future calls, but also in continuing to receive the funding to have these kinds of programs. If we were unable to get to your question during the call or you think of one later, please feel free to email us your question at cancerandcareers@cew.org, and we'll be sure to get the answers for you. Again, thank you so much, Archie, for all of your insights. This has been really eye-opening, and I just want to thank you all for attending today. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much for the time, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you.